You can have all of the answers. Nobody has all the answers, but you can have the answers, some of the answers. You can understand a lot of the things, and you can still get sick. And I'm going to tell you why. Plus, this is my hair loss video part 3, where I'm going to tell you what happened and how I ended up losing all that hair. That is a personal story. So, first of all, most of us in this health space that are talking about the unusual things are here because we've had likely decades of doing the wrong thing. So, like for me, over 2 decades of eating the wrong things, doing the wrong things, many of the wrong things, screwing up in a million different ways, and your body keeps score biologically and emotionally. And so, I will pay the price of all the choices and choices I didn't make or choices my parents made for me prior to me understanding how things work. Not everything, but prior to understanding how things work. So I can understand how things work and at the same time still pay the price for everything I did prior to understanding how things work. I think that's really important because so many times we like to pick people apart, whether it's on social media or socially, and not understand that all of us are here because for years and years and years, we screwed up. And so something totally can happen to us health wise because you can still pay the price for what you did quite a while ago. Now, what happened to me? How did I end up losing all that hair? Um, I actually had what's called a chemical pregnancy. So basically an early miscarriage around between week 4 and 5. That's what's called a chemical pregnancy. And the reason why I want to share this with you is because I want to share with you the power of the sun when it comes to blood volume and blood pressure. So I was able to miscarry cleanly. It was very early, so that's not uncommon. And between also not uncommon when you miscarry is that you lose a large volume of blood. So between one day to the next, I went from blood pressure of 120 over 68 or 70, which is normal, to 90 over 50 something, early 50s, which is very low. There's a big dip because I lost so much blood. Now, I never fainted. Nothing happened to me. I was able to drive myself, to get something that I needed to take care of myself. How this happened? Because I was lucky those days that that happened. I we had a hot day with a high UV index for where I was living at the time, and that was a UV index of 7. And I spent the entire day in a tan through bathing suit, lying in direct sunlight for the entire day. I didn't move much other than to go to washroom, drink water, stuff like that. And this is huge because of the role the sun plays in regulating hemoglobin oxygen carrying capacity. So after that, I got a blood test and my hemoglobin was only 2 points below normal range. Okay, so it was still slightly low, but considering how much blood I lost, that's actually quite good. And the reason why that happened again is because I was in the sun the whole time, avoiding tech outside with my phone plugged into Ethernet. Now, when you lose blood, you also lose something called porphyrins that is in your blood. And I'm going to be talking about them more in the future. Just have so many projects, exciting projects for everyone on the go right now. But porphyrins are really important for making this internal light that our body makes, this invisible light called ultra weak photon emission. And when you lose them rapidly, you can become EMF sensitive and you can experience a recurrence of things that you had previously fixed. So I not only lost a ton of hair after that, but I also became EMF sensitive. On the plane ride, I got really, really puffy, swollen face, all these things that didn't happen to me before. I started feeling headaches from people who had their phones on from driving beside towers. I started to feel all these effects. I got butterfingers again, memory. and I should say brain clarity, messing up words, things that I had fixed long ago came back. Why? Because I all of a sudden lost so many porphyrins at a time in which where I was at the time didn't have enough of a strong UV after that point, because right after that, UV dropped completely from the sky and disappeared from where I was, not enabled me to recover those porphyrins in time. Now I am recovering my porphyrins in El Salvador, rebuilding my tan and body's ability to make ultra-weak photons. And this is how that happened. So the takeaway is that you can recover from blood loss using light, especially the sun, and avoiding non-native EMFs, so avoiding the big stressors, which would be your phone, electric fields, magnetic fields, that pulsate especially, so not natural ones from the earth, but ones from fake stuff. And you can improve in your blood pressure and re-regulate it very quickly by staying in the sun, because vasopressin, which plays a hormone that plays a huge role in regulating blood pressure, is circadian and is modulated by light. So if you are under, and then there's also nitric oxide, which plays another role, and that's also regulated by light. So it's changed depending on what kind of light you're exposed to. With the hair, I'm still using the frankincense. Even here in El Salvador, I'm still using it because I saw such a huge benefit from it. I'm now planning to stop. And so I use it approximately 2 times a day now, and I pretty much see almost no hair loss whatsoever. And like if you're curious about exactly what happened then, I go through that in my hair loss video part 2, which is the video before this one, which I break down how I reduce my hair loss by over 90% without peptides. Also, in the other video, I talked a lot about cinnamon for progesterone, which I'm still taking occasionally here, even though I probably don't need it. The power of your environment in affecting how something acute happens to you is incalculable, and we hardly ever give it enough consideration and give it enough weight. It carries a lot of weight, and we need to give it a lot more weight. So if you have a hemorrhage for whatever reason, the best thing you can do is lie outside in the sun in a tan through bathing suit, or better yet, naked. The stronger the sun, the better. And if you absolutely can't get that for some reason and you have no way of getting on vacation, then, a B or C option would be a light panel. I definitely use them with clients in my program and one-on-one clients. And with the cinnamon, it's also worth mentioning that I know I've mentioned this before in the last videos, but it must be cassia cinnamon when you're using cinnamon for progesterone. Cannot be Ceylon cinnamon. It does not work because it doesn't contain the active ingredient, which is cinnamaldehyde. Back to porphyrins and blood loss and blood pressure. You can't just go by what they tell you when they tell you that your ferritin's dropping and now you need an iron infusion. I didn't get an iron infusion. I didn't get a blood infusion. I didn't get anything. And sure, my ferritin dropped, but I wasn't too worried about that because I knew what to do to recover it. Now, recovery from a sudden massive loss of porphyrins is slow if you don't have the right light to do that. And the cold was also a really big tool for me when I was still in a cold winter environment, because the cold helps you make your own light on the inside. So ultra weak biophoton emission with cold therapy done right, properly acclimated for, is really important. But this brings into focus, if you are constantly losing a large amount of blood, then you are constantly losing porphyrins. And it's not just iron that you're losing. And no amount of iron supplements or red meat will replace those porphyrins. Only light will do that. Only light will help you rebuild, I should say, not replace those orphans, but I should say rebuild the capacity of their ability to create light inside your body, to organize light as information, to use light to create things, matter, hormones, all these things that they do that are very necessary to you feeling good and not feeling crappy. Now, the other thing I want to mention when it comes to regulating your iron, hemoglobin, oxygen carrying capacity when you're losing blood and your blood pressure is that the importance of having a baseline of light hygiene, a good light environment, and a good solar callus and solid sun exposure prior to that, because of how that affects how your body can absorb and use the light that you're taking. So if I had been Joe Schmo who spent the entire time indoors and now all of a sudden went outside for whatever random reason I decided it was a thing I was all of a sudden going to do, and I'd never built up my solar exposure, done a lot of early morning, late evening tanning in the sun, um, made sure I was eating healthy fats, lots of seafood, then or I was eating a lot of seed oils, I would not see that effect. Not the same way. Although I have heard, especially in my time when I used to work as a nutritionist in a store, many clients who are like, oh, I lost a lot of blood for whatever reason, whatever it was that happened to them. And then it's a sunny day and I spent the whole day outside and I'm finally, for the first time, feeling a little bit better. And then the next day was cloudy and I don't feel good anymore. I heard that a lot. So you will feel some effect. But the maximum effect comes when your body is able to maximally use that light. And in order to do that, you need to have that solar callus. You need to have that regular solar exposure. And even before that, you need to have that really great light and EMF environment in your home, that sanctuary in your home. Otherwise, your absorption, communication pathways, your circadian rhythm, your clocks in your skin, like everything's going to be screwed up and nothing's going to be working properly or in sync. So you really can't maximize on anything. Sometimes the basics are the simplest things, and we underestimate the power of the sun, and we often do not connect it with blood loss and ability to recover from blood loss and ability to avoid fainting when you are, for any reason, losing a large amount of blood. And we don't consider it for heavy bleeding or for miscarriage or for any of these things. And then all the symptoms that you get post that. If you didn't get an iron transfusion or blood transfusion, because then those come with their own list of side effects, depending on who your donor was or if it was an iron transfusion, that comes with a whole other list of side effects. But if that's not what happened and you didn't do anything, then those effects, the side effects, how worse you feel after that, it's not just iron and it's not just oxygen. It's light and it's that orchestra of invisible light communication. That's happening in your body that has to be perfectly tuned and has to be orderly. It can't be chaotic or you'll get disease and you feel like crap. So I wanted you to understand the backstory because I also wanted you to understand the power of your natural environment when it comes to how you feel. And I want you to understand that if you spent 20 years or over 20 years doing the wrong thing, many of the wrong things, when you now learn what the right thing was, maybe I thought they were the right thing then, or maybe you thought they were the right thing then, but they were no longer the right thing. Um, you may still pay the price, no matter how good you are. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, and if you have any thoughts, leave me a comment.